Welcome to another episode of The Adrian Ross Show, where sports and culture connect. I don't know about you, but for me, whoever's announcing a game has a whole lot to do with whether I enjoy the game or whether I don't enjoy the game. Sometimes people calling games are so irritating, it's like I can't even take it. And it's just not the same as watching a game with someone who not only knows what they're talking about, but they're just enjoyable to listen to. When I see that Rebecca Lobo is calling a game, I'm like, okay, I can do this. And that's saying a lot when you know my history, as some of you know now. I was never a New York Liberty fan, and I'm New York born and raised. Couldn't stand the Liberty because I, I was a Houston Comets fan. Enough said there, right? Big rivalry there. Houston Comets fan, cannot root for New York Liberty. Did not like number 50 Rebecca Lobo. You would not catch me rooting for her, period. Okay. Also went to UConn. You know how I feel about UConn. Like I said, would not be rooting for her, period. But now she's behind the microphone and she brings knowledge and respect. She, unlike some of the old guard, if you will, understands the talent that Caitlin is and is not intimidated by it and does not seem to feel like she has to pretend that Caitlin isn't the real deal. And you gotta love it. You find that also with the GOAT, Cynthia Cooper, the other CC, who says Caitlin Clark is the absolute truth. Lisa Leslie, someone else I never rooted for because she was a Sparks, Los Angeles Sparks, and I didn't like them either. Another rivalry with the Houston Comets. Lisa Leslie, however, she doesn't have a problem talking about the talent that Caitlin Clark is. So many others, it seems. Let me backtrack. Maybe I shouldn't say so many others because I think there are some, and they make the league look bad and the old guard look bad and the media look bad, but there are too many who don't want to give her credit for what she does on the court and what she brings off the court. And it's a shame. But back to Rebecca Lobo. I'm looking at Rebecca Lobo calling this game, and I'm remembering this woman is a New York Liberty, okay? Always, right? Like they say, once UConn, always UConn, once Liberty, always Liberty. So she's a New York Liberty in her heart, of course, but she's got to recognize talent. So she's calling that game, and I'm watching her, and I'm like, yo, you know you're a Caitlin Clark fan. She's fair for sure, I believe, but I can also detect some serious fandom for Caitlin Clark. And I'm not surprised because that's what ballers like. Ballers like good basketball. Ballers who are true students of the game and passionate about the game, they're not approaching the game with an agenda. They are excited when they get to see exciting basketball. And who's more exciting than Caitlin Clark, as Rebecca Lobo told us. But I'm going to point out something here. I'm going to take you to some footage from Saturday's game as you listen to Rebecca Lobo advocating on behalf of the Indiana Fever, and so many others would not do it. But ballers and people without an agenda and people who are secure in their time on the court and they have moved on and want the best for the game, they're going to call it like they see it. So let's go to the videotape. Isn't that a blast from the past? So let's start with this one. I had to cut out some of the video footage and commentary because of YouTube's sternness. But as usual, the links are in the description of this video.
Escu quickly answers the pace of the game.
So they're going to show the replay of this. Obviously, Sophie Cunningham was fouled. Caitlin Clark went to the official, had some words for the official, and she does get a technical. So they're going to get into this right now.
So there was no foul called on the play, but there was clearly a foul.
Okay, so what happened there was Sophie Cunningham went to the basket. She was clearly fouled. The foul wasn't called, and what the camera did not show, but you're going to see in a moment on the replay, is Caitlin Clark was furious, and she let the official know it and ended up getting a technical.
Says, "Are you kidding me?" and gets teed up for that. But understandably, it was an obvious foul that was missed.
So Rebecca Lobo says right there that it was an obvious foul and that it was understandable that Caitlin was upset. Now, I said during the live stream of the game that I don't have a problem with her getting teed up in that situation. Not a big fan of being that demonstrative in front of an official and he's going to tee you up. But okay, so sometimes you decide I'm going to get the technical. And she got the technical. But as Rebecca said, it was an obvious foul. The officials chose not to call or didn't see or whatever we want to say about it. But right after that, we go into the next possession and Rebecca Lobo's going to have to call folks out again.
Because at one end, you had a player get fouled pretty aggressively. And then on the other, there's minimal contact.
And so there, Rebecca Lobo says, what's up with that? Basically, on the one end, there was something that was rather aggressive. You don't blow your whistle. Down here, as Pam Ward said, Sabrina Ionescu drew the foul, minimal contact, if anything, and you blow the whistle. You got Sophie Cunningham clearly fouled on the floor, nothing. Over here, Sabrina Ionescu should get an Academy Award and you're blowing the whistle. So like she said, it's frustrating. It's frustrating for fans. It's frustrating for the players. It's frustrating, period. So lots of people, though, would not even call that out because they just won't. They just won't. They'll focus on Caitlin Clark getting a technical. They'll focus on Sabrina Ionescu. She got to the line. But Rebecca Lobo, she's, I want to say low-key Fever fan, but it's not even that low-key. Seriously, she's fair, but she's also loving this team. And remember, the Liberty is Rebecca Lobo's former team. So there is some allegiance there. But truth is truth, and it's got to be spoken, at least by people who are fair, like Lobo. So now I'm going to show you how much of a fan she is and how she is seriously not afraid to say it on First Take. So we're going to go to X over at Clark Seasons account.
Steven, it's funny because I was listening to your last segment where you were talking about Steph Curry and you said he's the greatest shooter God ever created. On Saturday, Caitlin Clark certainly looked like that for the WNBA in terms of what she was able to do. As a player, she finished last year 4th in MVP voting. This is a player this year is second favorite right now in MVP, right behind Nafisa Collier. Last year she was the best guard in the league. So, in terms of the context of the history of the league, time will tell. But in terms of the impact she has had both on and off the court and one season plus, it's certainly right up there. We were talking with our crew after the game. We got at least 10 more years of watching Caitlin in her absolute prime. And it's so exciting. It's so fun to watch her. She's certainly the most exciting player, certainly the most fun player to watch in the league right now. And we're just going to see kind of her legacy continue to grow as she has more performances like we saw on Saturday. And again, time will show how long is it going to take her to get that Indiana Fever team to a WNBA champion.
Preach, Becca, preach. You hear what she said? Last year, she was the best guard in the league. Why am I pointing that out? Because there were still people trying to pretend that she wasn't, trying to put other people's names alongside her name, including Sabrina Ionescu, including Chelsea Gray. Listen, Rebecca said she is the most exciting player in the league. She is so much fun to watch. She was 4th in MVP voting, and right now she's 2nd in terms of people who are deciding in their minds who MVP is. No other as fun as Caitlin Clark. no better guard last year, and she's just continuing. Now, let's listen to what else she says on First Take about Caitlin.
It means a lot more people are paying attention once again. We know how much Caitlin drives ratings. We know how much Caitlin drives attention on the WNBA. And for her to come back and do it in that way was just ridiculous. I mean, I'm sitting there at the end of the first quarter when she had that 38-second stretch where she drained deep three after deep three after deep three. I was just sitting there thinking, I've been around this league since 1997. I have never seen that in a WNBA game. Have we seen players go on runs? Of course we have, but not like that. Not where a couple of the three-pointers are from 30 plus feet. It was an exhibition by her after being out for 19 days to recover from an injury. Couple that with the other passes that she made and some of the other plays. It was just ridiculous. It's not often that you're watching the WNBA.
Now, don't miss what she says right here.
Or that I'm watching it and I'm like, wow, I've just never seen this before.
Wow, she just says something there. You have to understand that this league was created with Rebecca Lobo in mind. Rebecca Lobo, Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops. And she said, I've been around here since 1997. I have never seen anything like what Caitlin did on Saturday. Those long range threes, boom, boom, boom. I'm not saying folks haven't been on the run, but don't try to tell me there's ever been anything like this. There has not. She used the adjective ridiculous. It was ridiculous. I call it otherworldly. And I heard somebody else use that. Jason Whitlock, I believe, used that term today, otherworldly. And I've used that before. It was just unlike anything anyone has ever seen in this league. And if they say they have, they're lying. And Rebecca Lobo just had to tell you, never. And remember, she was in the league. And so many people constantly want to say, nah, it's not all that. It's not like that. But thankfully, there are people like Rebecca Lobo and others who just have to say, this is so quote unquote ridiculous. And the good news about it is that it brings eyeballs to everyone. So everybody has an opportunity to see you play when Caitlin Clark is on the floor, but make no mistakes about it. This woman is, let me be Stephen A. Smith, special. She is just special. She really is. And Rebecca Lobo doesn't mind saying it with all the pressure out there, apparently, from people giving Caitlin Clark credit. There are some people who love the game too much to pretend that she's just one of many. She's not. She's absolutely generational. And I will catch you next time, God willing. God bless you abundant.